Welcome to A View from the Summit, where we explore the unique relationship between humans and animals. Whether it's an Olympic partner or couch buddy, a working companion or unique pet, a world champion or someone you think the world of. Join us for a look at animals in our lives. Brought to you by Summit Animal Health. Hello, everyone, and welcome to A View from the Summit. My name is Steve Searcy, and I get the pleasure of being one of the co-hosts to this program. Now, my other co-host, who happens to be on here, is way up north in a very foggy, dreary, goat-filled environment on her ranch in Minnesota. Robin, how are you? What's going on up there in the fog and the wilderness?
Hey, Steve. Well, thank you. It's great to be here. And the big news is the sun actually is coming out. Like, it's pretty awesome. We're kind of solar powered. We love the sun, but the last few days have been, fall, cold, wet, whatever. So we're always out and active, and our antidote to fog and cold is to get out in it and play, which animals just kind of make you do that anyway. And the goats keep us laughing because currently everything has been killed by frost, so they are safe to roam about the country. They are loose and eating, so they show up on the front porch and wherever, get into all kinds of trouble and make us laugh. But the cattle are good. Everybody's happy, and I am excited to be here.
Wait, I got to interrupt you. Speaking of making happiness, would you make all our audience happy one more time and give us the goat call that you are famous for? It was so good when we did it a few weeks ago. It has lived in my heart. So I'll count you down here. And this is what you hear every morning. 1, 2, 3.
We have several goats that make you think they're dying as soon as you open the door. The goat pen is like 100 yards from the house, and
every time you do that, it cuts out. It doesn't record you. I think it's being censored. This is goat censorship, I think, is what we got going on here.
Really, we only have 6 goats, so they monopolize a lot of our energy, but it's not a very large part of the operation. But that's okay, because as we speak, my daughter, I wish I had a video for this, and 3 of the baby goats and a dog and a shovel are headed to the trailer. 5, 6 goats are parading by the window. Anyway, we're here to visit with Shannon and goat business. I'm super excited. And Steve, Shannon is a wonderful, not just animal lover, but accomplished dressage rider. And tell us a little bit about the fun we're going to have today.
Well, I'll tell you, because this lady, she's traveled all around the world as a dressage athlete, and I know some of you are going, dressage, what the heck is that? Sounds like a skin disease, but it's not. It's a particular way, a competitive venue in the equestrian world, and Shannon's going to put us in. She's won all sorts of awards and has trained many people to go on to win awards. Shannon, welcome to the show and to all this goat nonsense.
Oh, thank you very much. I just want to say, I know this is about animals. I have always wanted a goat. I have always wanted a goat. But the husband won't let me have them because he's got a couple clients with goats, and he said that all their landscaping is eaten up to like the 4-foot level because the goats eat it all. So he's like, oh, we can't have goats.
Well, he's not wrong. And see, apropos to the conversation, you wanted to hear about goats. Goats, my daughter was dying for goats, and we were a hard no because they are fairly destructive. So they have a pretty well-fortified pen, and they're not allowed out of the pen during the summer when we have a garden and the shrubs. But after everything gets killed off by frost and there's really no more damage they can do, then they're loose and just enjoying. And my daughter she rodeos and ropes goats, and so she loves to keep them in line.
Yeah.
And we're breeding them because we breed livestock, cattle primarily. But so if you have one goat, you can't just have one goat, right? But
like rabbits,
right?
like rabbits.
a good fence with, small mesh fence that they stay in, and then, stake them out, and they do a great job on weeds and things like that. So, and they are a lot of enjoyment. They are hilarious, really.
So Shannon, if you receive a large box from Minnesota, and there's no return address,
yeah,
be careful.
Air holes.
There it is.
That's right. But so we're not talking about you in the third person and your accomplishments and your love of dressage. I grew up riding 3-day event horses, and I loved dressage, but used it as a stepping stone for cross country. But
tell us what is dressage.
What is dressage? What do you do? And where are you right now? Where are you hailing from as we share this?
Well, I'll start with the last one. I'm hailing from down in Wellington, Florida, which is the hub of dressage and show jumping and polo during the winter season, right? So, and it's winter season is getting earlier and earlier this year. Every year, more and more people came down in October, which in my mind is a little bit crazy because it's still really hot and humid in October. But that's where I'm hailing from now, because I kind of followed the really good competition and the really good trainers. They're more and more down here, and then we can just stay here and do the whole season. And there's a whole lot of international competitions from December through April. So you can just stay at home. I don't have to live in a hotel, and take the horses to the international competitions. So what is dressage? Well, dressage, really, the word just means training in French. So it is basic training for many, many different disciplines. Use some elements of basic dressage training. When we're talking about pure dressage, we are the ones that dress up in funny little penguin suits and prance around at the Summer Olympics. And, a lot of people who have no idea about horses have at least flipped to that channel and seen a little bit when they're watching the Summer Olympics.
And then moved on.
Some people move on and others get absolutely hooked. So you have to be, to be training at that kind of level, you have to be a little bit on the type A personality scale. Because it's such a perfectionist thing. And you said that you were an event rider when you were younger, and so was I. And you said you loved dressage to get to cross country. Well, for me, it was like I hated dressage, and it was just one hurdle I had to get over to get to cross country. So I was not very good at it at all when I was eventing. I had very brave, very athletic horses. And at that point, I was very brave too. But then I think I was like 33, and I had a horse that was preliminary and was absolutely faultless prelim, and he needed to go intermediate. And I had done intermediate before, but I looked at those intermediate courses and thought, no more. So then I said, okay, well, I guess I can sell him. I sold him for enough to buy my first really nice 3-year-old warm blood, and then learned, trained him to Grand Prix and dressage. I thought, you still have to be brave to be a good dressage rider. You can't be afraid, because they still do shenanigans, and you have to be able to ride forward. And all, but you don't have to be quite as brave as running towards those massive fences that don't fall down. So, so that was my journey into dressage. It is absolutely fascinating for me, because you're riding with every different horse and every different rider, because I do a lot of coaching too. You're trying to come around to this magical dance with your animals, and you have to be able to deal with the individuals. So it's like, it's never the same. And we read textbooks all the time about it. Well, we should anyway. You have to know the theory of what we're trying to get done. But dealing with the individual, very few horses actually read those textbooks that we read. So, we have to become, I've been around now for quite a few years, so I've trained a lot of different horses, and riders. And so now I have you really have to have a good understanding of basic horsemanship and different horses and different horse types and how you can develop each horse. So it's fascinating.
So that is really, really interesting, because we talk a lot about different relationships with people and different animals, and every horse is really a different animal, right? So how have you, like, what are some tools? And a lot of people watching may not even have a horse. Listening, they can watch it on YouTube or listen on Spotify. They might have a water buffalo or a zebra or a chicken or a goat, but animals communicate, right? They communicate with us, and it's our job to shoot the ones we're working with to figure out the best way to communicate in their language and how it works for them. So what are some tools or things you've found out in your experience, because you've been doing it a long time in different levels, all the way up to the really advanced international levels. But it all starts with the basics, right? So what are some things you've done that you've noticed, you figured out in the communication and relationship with these horses that are all different, and then you add the rider with it? What are some ways of communicating or things you found that, a lot of people probably could benefit from?
Oh, I think this goes along with any animal, but for sure, riding, we're doing dressage on their back, but the communication has to start from the ground. So the biggest thing that I'll do, I've got some new horses in this season that are all just coming into the barn right now. I work with the horses on the ground, and you figure out a lot about how they react and how they interact by just learning. I do a lot of leading, a lot of work around. I've got a big bridle path that we work on, see how they react to your body position. Many just big warm bloods with nice little ladies have no respect. So you have to teach them on the ground how to respect who I am. I don't want fear. That never works, but respect is really, really important. So you do a lot of the stuff that you would say natural horsemanship brought to forefront. And it's good. It's just good horsemanship. Natural horsemanship is a term, but good horsemanship is figuring out how horses are interacting with you and having them interact correctly with you. So I do a ton of leading, a ton of, they have to walk, trot, move away, back up, come forward, turn one way, turn the other way, from my body position and from my, there's a lot of how you are interacting through your body. And that's how they interact with each other. So I have to figure out how they're interacting with me and make them interact better with me from there. And then I have a really good idea of, when I get on them, how they're going to react to me as well. And they have to do it from both sides too. Like, a lot of people only lead their horses from the near side, which is the left side. My horses have to go from both sides. And I don't do it as much from the right side, from what we call the offside, but I do it. And when I'm riding, I need to have them moving from the right and moving from the left equally. So when I'm on the ground, I want to get more and more ambidextrous with them. I also teach them that I can get on and off. And this is like, dressage people are like, what are you doing? I can get on and off from the offside if I need to. So, and that the first time a horse ever has that happen, they're gonna go, what are you doing? You're not supposed to do that. And I do all that first with them. I try to make friends with them. I was just at a clinic last weekend, and I got on a horse that I'd never met before. I try horses out for other clients before I recommend them to buy them. I get on them. They don't know me from Adam. I always try to make friends with them so that we have a little bit of a, hello, it's me. I see you. Do you see me? Before I even get on. And then it's because we're asking them to react, and maybe it's a slightly different language than what they're used to reacting to. And I'm speaking in English and they're speaking in Dutch. So I have to figure it out and have them try to work with me to translate so that we can have a communication when I'm on top of them. So I guess, that's not really dressage, that's just horsemanship. And then we can get into the nitty gritty of what dressage is.
And that's beautiful, because, we see often Olympians and international riders like yourself who are riding at such a high level. And if you're not an educated dressage viewer, it doesn't look like you're doing anything up there. You're just sitting there majestically, and the horse is prancing and doing all the pirouettes and the flying changes and all of this. And people are like, what is going on? And what did they do to get there? But it's beautiful to hear that it's like you say, natural horsemanship is basic communication, right, with the horses, but that all of the fancy, impressive stuff starts with the basic communication, even just making friends. And anybody who has a horse in their backyard needs the same basic training and start. So I love that. That is such an inspiring and encouraging thing to hear, because all of you listening, if you've got a backyard horse that you take on the trail, it all starts there with your basic communication, right?
It really does. And to be friends, friends respect each other too. Friends don't walk over each other. So that's also a good thing. One thing I want to caution is I see so many people that they want to be friends with their horse, and the horse is only going to like them if they never discipline them. But that's not, if you have a really good friendship, there is always that element of respect. And along with respect is kindness, of course. But I want to make sure that people know that the horse, they're big and they're dangerous. If they decide to jump on top of you or kick or bite, they've got steel on the end of those feet. They're dangerous. So they really do have to have the respect first and friendship as well. But one of the things that I want to say is, especially with horses and especially with mares, because I love my mares. I just love them. You have to be fair with mares. And sometimes you don't have to be, geldings will put up with a heck of a lot more. But one of the best things that you can ever do is find a horse's itchy spot and itch them. And they will be your friend if you can find that. If you need to have them work with you,
I will show you my itchy spot, and I'll be your friend forever. I'll show it to you right there.
Funny story, my daughter, who just ran by bareback on her pony. If you walk up behind her and scratch her back like this, she goes, ooh, ooh, like the horses do with their lips. She's like, ooh, ooh. That's what you're talking about. I love it.
Exactly. And all of my horses they'll all just come up to me in the biggest field that they're in and just kind of sidle up and go, would you like to scratch me there? And there's no carrots needed when your horse is expecting you to groom them.
Shannon, do you have other animals in your life, or are you horse centric?
Well, I'm horse centric, but of course I have other animals. I have dogs, I have cats, I've had chickens. Right now I don't, because we also had coyotes. Like I said, I really want either a goat or a mini donkey.
Mini donkey. Now you're talking my language.
Mini donkey will help with the coyote problem, and then you can get the chickens.
Yeah. I know. Or we just have to have a better system for the chickens.
So somebody was talking to me the other day and said that they had a dog that had a real sense of humor. Have you ever had an animal, whether it's a horse or a dog, that had a sense of humor that was just a joker?
Oh, yes. When you've had as many animals in my life.
Tell us a story. Tell us a story.
Oh, gosh. I have him back now. His name is Allegro. His name is Allegro, named Alfie. Then it was Alfredo, and then it turned into the Potato. So his name is Potato. You know how they just kind of evolved those names. But anyway, the Potato just came back because he was mine, and I got him up to Grand Prix. He had a stifle injury, and he stayed pretty sound for about 3 years. And then I said, it's just, he would stay working. It wouldn't matter. He would be like the Black Knight in Monty Python, where it's merely a flesh wound. I can still massage him off. So, but finally I said, no, it's not fair, honey. So I sent him up to retirement in Ocala. And then this year I had an extra stall. So I brought him back. I love this horse. He is the funniest horse in the world. Whatever you put in his stall, he's always busy and always getting into trouble. whatever you put into his stall, jolly balls. I've had stuffed animals. He's the one I want the mini donkey for, but I thought maybe a goat because he couldn't abuse it as much. I'm not sure, but whenever he gets it, he will play with it for about 5 minutes, and then he tosses it out his window, and then he waits for you and he bangs at it until you go back and toss it back in, and then he goes and plays with it and he tosses it out the window, and then he starts to bang again. He wants it back in. So I was thinking he actually needs like a tether ball.
Yes.
He can't get rid of. And he would actually learn how to play tetherball. I absolutely know that horse.
Hilarious.
The smartest horse. I also called him like the physicist because I was sure that at night he read his textbooks. He came to me as an 8-year-old that wasn't trained, like walk, trot, canter. And in a year, he was doing all the Grand Prix work, which is unheard of. His basic training, his basics were really good. He'd just kind of been like last on the heap, so he never got trained by the person, but the basics were super good. So, and he was 8, so then you could put the work on him, but he was so smart. So as long as I'm really glad by that time I kind of knew what I was doing, because he would have learned the bad really fast. But he learned good so fast. I've never had a horse that smart.
That's awesome.
And then the other funny thing about the horse is that he, I don't know what he did, but he's got a penchant for getting into trouble. He put his face somewhere where he shouldn't have, but he came to me with scars on his bottom lip, and he's lost 2 of his top incisors. So when he does his thing, because he's always doing something like this, when he does that thing, you go, "Oh, you're a real redneck." He's
got the snaggletooth look going on.
Snaggletooth, yeah. It's funny. And now he's getting older, so now those snaggletooth kind of stick out at this angle instead of down there.
That's hilarious. I love it.
How funny. And you mentioned earlier shenanigans.
Oh, did I?
Yeah,
Yes.
you mentioned shenanigans. So
Okay,
I know you perform at this high level, and there's all these people dressed up and they're looking at you as you go out there.
Yeah.
What is the most embarrassing shenanigan at a high level that has ever occurred?
The most embarrassing shenanigan for me or for anybody?
For you.
Oh, well, when you're at a big international show over in Europe with all the Olympic riders and all their Olympic horses, and thinking that this is it's a really big deal. And your horse jumps out of the ring. At the end of the extended canter, there was no collected canter. So jumps out of the ring, and then and it was a very big international arena. So the dressage arena is like this minuscule thing in this huge jumper arena, and then continues to bolt around the outside of the arena.
He wanted to be a jumper.
That's embarrassing.
Well,
it didn't fall off. That's all. That would have been worse.
What do you do when that happens? Do you wave at the crowd as you go by?
As soon as I had the horse somewhat under control, yes, and the crowd is like clapping in like they're feeling for you. They're like, "Oh my God, how are you?" And they're like clapping nicely while you go around. You just want to hang your head, and you have to go, "Thank you, thank you,
thank you. I'm out of here."
I know. So yes, that was pretty bad because that's an instant elimination. And then there's, so that was embarrassing and kind of funny. Funny after the fact, not so fun at the time. Those things when you go, this isn't any fun now, but it's going to make a good story.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. And it is the antithesis of dressage, right? Which is composed, controlled, and
I would say for those like 5 minutes, we were not composed or controlled, not in any way.
But your previous eventing background allowed you to stay on.
Well, I know, and I did. Oops, Are you still there?
We're here. We're
Yep,
here.
we're here.
Okay, there you are.
Listen, we
Uh,
wouldn't miss this for anything. This is great.
I did work on the racetrack for a few years too, so I have been a runaway with a few times.
All good preparation, but
All
that's
good
awesome.
preparation. Yeah.
That's so fun. So tell us about racehorses. Like I've dabbled in a little bit. I used to retrain some polo horses. I rode steeplechase horses in Ireland a little bit, but racehorses are like the opposite of dressage horses, right? They're not even that well I mean, there's not even that much of a handle on them, for lack of a better term. They're basics.
Well, I came from a sport horse background. So, and we would breed when I was a kid, like 1 or 2 thoroughbred mares a year, very small, but 1 or 2. And I was pretty good at breaking and training young horses. So I got a job when I got out of high school, breaking thoroughbreds. So, and it was just up the road, and they had a nice indoor arena, and those horses were actually well broke before we took them to the track.
Awesome.
So yeah, we started them in the round pen, and by the time, and it started them I think we started them in a Western saddle, and that was always nice for me because you got something to hang on to. But if we did all the work on the ground first, it really wasn't terrible getting on these young horses. And I've probably been on 500 colts for their first ride in my life. So, and they would walk, trot, canter both directions before we ever went to the track. I worked for a really, really good old time trainer, though. They were not crazy. And I'm kind of tall. So when I got to the track, I could do the trotting work and the galloping work, but I could never breeze. I was too big to ever breeze the horses. But I did get run away with once or twice on the track, and then they're going back, and you're like, well, I didn't mean to. I was trying to stop.
There are no brakes.
No.
Forgot the brakes part. That bred to run. That's awesome, because the racetrack world's a whole nother thing. But it sounds like just you from a young age, right, developed your personal relationship with horses and learned how to. I mean, I started colts forever too. This year actually is the first time this fall. I had a bad horse wreck this summer. So this fall is the first time ever in my life I've had someone else start my colts.
Yeah.
Our nephew did it. He does a great job. We had 2-year-olds to get started. But how young were you when you started horses? Like, how did your relationship as a kid start? You said you bred some as your family did. And so but you could have horses as a family and the kids don't necessarily want to do anything with the horses. Yeah,
it was different. My sister didn't. I did. I was up every day at like 5 a.m. and I cleaned the stall. I wanted horses. So I cleaned the stalls and did that before I went to school, and, came home, did horses all afternoon, all evening. So that was how I grew up. My mom was a really good horsewoman who grew up on a ranch in Alberta. And she was one of Canada's first S dressage judges, and the US. She brought dressage into Western Canada, which is where I grew up in Vancouver. So she was, for her time, incredibly well educated. I think it really drove her nuts that I hated dressage, but my theory was very good. But I didn't like it. But she was a super horsewoman. Like she, worked with Ray Hunt and did, all of that. I learned my basis of horsemanship absolutely from her.
That's fabulous.
Now she would have been happy that I actually got serious about my dressage work, but she's no longer here. So, but yeah, I can say that she's the one I can say made me into a horsewoman. Yes. Yeah, it was really good. And I did Western, I did jumpers, I did eventing, I did reining, I did, the one thing I've never done competitively is cutting. But I've ridden a few cutting horses. I've got so many friends over all areas of the horse industry. And whenever I think, well, I think this is good enough off the leg, and I think they're responsive enough, then I think back to my reining horse friends. And I go, yeah, they could be a little sharper than that. So it's super interesting to be able to have all those things in my background. None of them that I was as good at as I am in dressage, but I think all of those things give me a lot of they give me the feelings that I need to be a really good dressage rider.
And the tools in your toolbox, right? Because you said
Yeah, the
every
tools in my toolbox.
horse is different, and I can completely appreciate what you're saying, because after I left the English world primarily, I went into the reining world, and it is a totally different level of responsibility and responsiveness required of the horse.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to hear you say that, because you know, all of that eclectic background adds to your skill to deal with all the different horses and people, you know, riding. So when it comes to learning, because it is important to continue learning, if a person is listening or watching who just has a horse with any discipline at all, or maybe no discipline, maybe, you know, whatever they do or don't do, what, you know, there's clinics everywhere, right? But share like some ideas or encouragement for people to find a clinic or ways to learn, or keep, even if it's like, if they're riding English, they're riding hunters, and there's a reining trainer coming, or what can they look for? How can they soak that up to help their learning?
Oh, I think, well, you know, you really should, before you just go to clinics, you should really do a little bit of digging into who that clinician is. And the other thing I always, my students always ask me about, well, I'd like to go to the clinic with so-and-so. And then I'll say, that probably not, that's not going to help you, but that one will, you know. And I always encourage all my students to go and deepen their knowledge elsewhere and come back to it. It always helps me. I don't have all their answers. They can learn so much from other people and from other disciplines, I'll tell you. But I also, you can do a lot by auditing these clinics, going to these things. You know, there's the main event and the expos where they have a really good person come in and teach a few demo lessons. You can come away with pages of notes that will apply to you with your horse, even if you're not in exactly the same discipline. When I think about the top riders that I've worked with at some of these expos, they're saying things that will go across every discipline, whether you're a trail rider or trying to, you know, jump a meter 50. And for us, watching the reining guys, the good ones, we're all speaking the same language. We're all speaking horse.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just, you know, little bits of differences when you start to specialize, but we're all speaking the same language.
That's great.
Do your dogs interact with your horses? Are they friends?
We try not to very much, but I have, because of liability issues with my clients, we, you know, and that really is, they are a liability issue. But when I'm alone on the property, or it's just me and my worker, yes, my dogs interact with the horses. I have a Jack Russell Terrier. Okay, so I have 2 mutts and a Jack Russell Terrier. And he's 11 pounds and he's the sheriff.
Sure.
He's the sheriff. In that barn, if a horse bangs on the stall door for dinner, he's right there and saying, "You don't bang." And the horses are like, "Oh, the sheriff's back in town." So yes, he's my sheriff. And I just shared something on Facebook where there's a really funny guy who does dog impersonations, and it was a job interview, and they had all the different dog breeds. And the Jack Russell Terrier, the question was, "What's your greatest weakness?" And the Jack Russell Terrier is going, "Dude, I just benched 40 pounds. I don't have a weakness."
I love it. I thought you were going to say, I don't understand the question.
Yeah. No.
Oh, we always called them Jack Russell terrorists when they were
yes.
there. We used them in our saddlebags in Ireland to actually fox hunt, and they are very sweet and smart and very tough.
Yeah, he's the best dog. But you know, they always say Jack Russell Terriers are shaped like a football for a reason.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's funny. Well, Shannon, it has been delightful being with you. And I guess you said dressage means learning or training?
Training. It actually
Training.
just means training.
So I guess when I started in dressage decades ago when I got married, so I think that I am in dressage after all, you know. Robin, do you have anything else to add to this crazy animal program?
I love it. It's always so much fun to hear all the different perspectives and realize that we're all just humans trying to speak in an animal's world, right? Yeah. But Shannon, if people want to follow you more, or if they're near you and want to do a clinic or get lessons or follow your success and your competition, how do people connect or find you? Website, Facebook?
Well, I just tried to get on my website the other day and I couldn't. So I don't know what's going on with that. I'll figure that one out. But Facebook, I'm on Facebook. I've got Dueck Dressage, and then my personal page, Shannon Lee Dueck, which is actually better. I do better on my personal page than on my Dueck Dressage page. And then I'm on Instagram as well. I have not, because I don't have a social media person. I am on TikTok, but I don't do it. So Instagram or Facebook are the places, and I am pretty good at updating what's going on the Facebook, and then it goes straight to Instagram. So those are how to get a hold of me, and I always do look at my messages.
Awesome. So
and
that's
you do workshops around the country, right?
I do clinics around the country, and in Canada as well sometimes. But I don't do it during season because I'm so busy down here that I can't get away and take care of my showing and clients and everybody who's down here. So I do the clinics where I travel from usually about May through November. And then I'm here after that and through season. And actually next year is super exciting because my mare Angelica we were alternates for the Pan American Games team this year. And luckily all the horses that were the top 4 were really looking great. So they went and they got a medal and they secured us a spot for Paris. So next year I'm going to the UK to train and compete over there with an eye to making the Paris Olympic team.
So congratulations. That is so exciting.
It is. And, she's a young mare, so it's a long shot, but no matter what, you've got to do it. And she'll be really strong for the year after, and the year after in the 2028 Olympics, she will be at the top of her game. So I'm super excited about getting over there and getting really, really good in the Grand Prix ring with her, getting her that experience with the help of, I think, the best trainer in the world.
That's so awesome. So as we wrap up, did you all hear, first of all, Shannon's on her way to the Olympics with this young mare, but she's going to take lessons with the best trainer in the world. So let that be a lesson for all of us. We are always in the arena, pardon the expression, to keep learning, right? And find the people, I say this all the time, who encourage you. And hopefully you've been listening today and are encouraged with a little humor, or to go train or do whatever it is that you want to communicate better with your animals, or your spouse, Steve. Sorry, help it.
I try. She's on my back. She's on my back all the time, just like.
But
a bit.
Really a pleasure, Shannon, and so many insightful tips that help at all levels. And we definitely, when we air the podcast, we will let you know, and we will share with everybody listening and watching your links for them to find you. And we just appreciate you joining us so much and wish you the best this winter season.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you. Right. Good luck getting goats.
If I get that package.
I'll be working on it.
Then I'm going to need the relationship help.
Right. That'll be my daughter.
Thanks so much, Shannon. Robin, it's always fun. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for sharing this moment with us. And we'll see you next week for another View from the Summit.
Bye, thanks.
Thanks for joining us for A View from the Summit. This program is made possible by Summit Animal Health. Check them out online at summitanimals.com. Thanks for joining us again, and we'll see you next week for another View from the Summit.